That teacher, actually, just out of interest, what would you say their energy predominant guna was?
Ecstatically rejustic, and it feels really like awakening. And there's a lot of shakti there. It feels really good. It feels like sent from heaven. It feels like holiness and presence, because it's that is underneath all that. And I could see the difference when someone says, I'm beyond body and blah, 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 and still is striving for that yet. Like some kind of power, more.
Yeah.
It feels like more.
You can see the ambition in the body, well,
Yeah.
in the world still, can't you?
And
The worldly ambition to propagate the teaching, all this kind of
a
stuff.
way of helping others, like we can help many.
Yeah, it's sort of, yeah, we can help more and more people, and there's nothing wrong with this normally. But when a teaching comes, like if you go to a charitable organization, they're talking about helping people. That's what you hope they're going to do. But for liberation, the teacher doesn't see any others that need help. There are no others that need help. So there's no need to, I think, what's the word, proselytize, is it? Is it proselytize? I think Demetrius can pronounce it better than me. Go on, Demetrius.
Proselytize.
Proselytize, thank you. So we don't have to proselytize, which means propagate and preach to many others and spread the word, evangelize. These are also red flags. Oh, look, our teachings are so good, let's share them more and more. It makes total sense for a psychological teaching, for a charitable teaching, but not for liberation. Not for true liberation. Teach doesn't see anyone else that needs help. Okay. So a few things. One is this: there's a false teaching that liberation is something that doesn't have a final end. There is no, basically the teaching is there is no final liberation. It's just a continuing evolving, continual unfolding. This is the false teaching. All the traditions, all the major traditions say there is something absolute. Absolute means final, non-relative. So there is no actual, Bill has just sent me a message telling me the definition of proselytize: to convert or attempt to convert someone from one religion, belief, or opinion to another. There you go. So it's that conversion from, thank you. I hope you don't want me reading that message out, Bill. I just thought it was pertinent to the group. So there's no attempt to convert others to your way of thinking, because there's no need. All is one in your view. Everything has a place. The false teachings, the true teachings, they all paradoxically have their place. But we can also point out the false teachings, and that has its place too. As well as the false teachings having their place, pointing out false teachings also has its place. You see, both have their place. But yeah, this idea, you'll see that that there is no endpoint called enlightenment or liberation. It's just an unfolding. This is a savikalpa teaching, a saguna teaching. This means suffering hasn't ended in the person who's teaching it. It means they're still seeking. Suffering not ending means seeking still going on. So they will say, oh, there's no end, there's no definite endpoint, it's just continuous unfolding. This goes against all the major traditions: Hindu tradition, yoga tradition, Vedanta teachings, Buddhist teachings, Taoist teachings. So teachers teaching that is still seeking, still suffering, still in Maya. What else did Tiana say? Putting the teacher on a pedestal. Yes, this is thinking of the teacher as a body-mind. And this links to bhakti, problems with bhakti. bhakti can be very problematic, because if you think of the teacher as being the body-mind, then your bhakti is limited. If you think of the teacher as not being the body-mind, having maybe a form that you can worship, but ultimately not having a form, then you cannot make too much out of the body-mind. You see, the teacher is not the body-mind. So the connection with the teacher is the connection with yourself, not the connection with another body-mind. So as long as you see a teacher as external to you, and as long as the teacher fosters that or encourages that separation, then you'll get this false teaching or this false bhakti dynamic. And there are many of these false bhakti dynamics around where it seems like, oh, it's very loving and devotional towards a teacher, but actually it's a dualistic form of devotion in which the higher form of devotion is never really properly shown. Diana's already mentioned that the teacher that she became involved with, in her view, was very highly rejustic. Now, I come across many teachers, and one of the biggest things that is a giveaway to me is the degree of rejustic nature they have. I can feel the energy. I can feel the seeking energy. I can feel the rejustic energy. I can feel the reveling in life type energy, which is the Shakti rajasic energy, which is the false form of liberation. It's the Hollywood form of liberation. It's the teenage view of enlightenment. I hesitate to use the word teenage because actually some teenagers can be highly realized, right? It's not age related, but it's an immature view of, it's an immature but understandable, totally innocent, totally understandable view of liberation is this rejustic view. And many teachers are highly rejustic. I'm going to teach from that. That's another warning bell. Let's see what else I wrote down. I've heard one teacher, a Vedanta teacher, say there is no end to Nididhyasana. Nididhyasana, if you remember, is the final or the third stage of the Vedanta teachings, and it culminates in liberation. They say no, Nididhyasana just carries on going forever, which is a false teaching. This is evolution, that there's no fixed end, it just carries on. Putting the teacher on a pedestal. Again, this is if you don't realize that the teacher is actually your own self. You think it's something outward. Then you can put the teacher on a pedestal. But here we revere and worship Ramana, but we know that he is I am he. You are he, I am he. So he's not separate from us. What are we revering but our own true self? So how can he is special. He is exquisitely, supremely special, as am I, as are we all. He is no more special. No more special. No one is. Another thing, when you're tamasic, when you're suffering, when you're in that negativity, you so want to come out of that positivity. You're so wanting, you might be desperate. So you want to believe it's true. You want to believe it's true. You don't step back. You don't look critically and think, is this true? Am I just fooling myself? No, because you want it to be true. You want to get into it. So you just fall into it because you're desperate, and maybe it gives you some relief from your suffering. And there's often a group of people around these things as well. The community becomes very important. The community is important, but the most important thing is your own spiritual journey as an individual, if I may say so. That's the focus. There may be a community, there may not be a community, but the focus is on your own spiritual development, not trying to help others, convert others, but going inwards. So there can be this sense of desperation that is born of suffering. That means we just accept things that we wouldn't normally accept. So if you see that in yourself, step back, look back, think, is this right? Look at that. Look at the traditional teachings. It's like what Ron said about there's nothing new under the sun. Look at the traditional teachings. Realize that there's some timeless truths here. Is this what the teachers are teaching, or is it something different? What else did I write? Excuses for the teacher's actions. They all say, oh, I'm acting from a higher level than you. You don't understand my actions. I'm on a higher level than you. This is baloney. This is rubbish. I've seen some people say, oh, I'm the teacher. You need to respect me. I'm the teacher. I'm a part of a lineage. I'm a part of a lineage. This is another warning. They're trying to improve their spiritual kudos, their reputation by saying I'm part of a lineage, and then demanding respect. A true teacher never asks, doesn't care about respect. Doesn't care about respect from anyone. If someone gives respect, wonderful, wonderfully received. But it's mutual. For me, when someone shows gratitude towards me, I can't help but feel love and gratitude towards them. It's the same. It's a relationship of equals. And that is encouraged. But for a teacher to demand respect, oh, you have to respect the lineage, you have to respect the guru, it's suffocating. As I said, you do not owe the teacher anything. Anything you want to give to Ramana, you give freely. If you don't want to give it to Ramana, don't. He doesn't care. He wants what's good for you. He doesn't want your veneration, your devotion. He doesn't care. The teacher is pleased if you're devoted, only for yourself. But the teacher themselves don't care about whether they receive adoration or not. Doesn't matter. So the false teacher might make excuses for their actions. They might spiritualize basic morality. Basic morality is very simple. We all understand what being good is in our hearts. That's it. It's not different if you're some kind of elevated guru. Another thing you mentioned, blaming the seeker or the members of the group for when they don't get things, saying that they're not good enough. Oh, you're not working hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're not good enough. You don't get it. No. The teacher always goes to the level of the student. This is true of any teacher, right? If you're a primary school teacher and you're teaching someone how to read and write, you don't teach Shakespeare to a 4-year-old, do you? You go to their level. You realize, oh, this 4-year-old's not really understanding the Shakespeare I'm prattling on about here. Let me see where they're at and let me adapt to them. You do this naturally out of love and affection for the child that you're teaching. Isn't it? It's not a one-size-fits-all teaching. It's another point I made. False teachings are one-size-fits-all teachings. Here's the teaching. Doesn't matter who comes along. Here's the teaching. Here's the teaching. Same teaching. One size fits all. You walk in through the door. You get blasted with the same teaching. This is not a genuine teaching. No genuine teacher teaches that way. Anyone who's teaching any kind of craft or art or skill, there might be a general methodology there, sure, but it's adapted. It's adapted naturally, spontaneously, out of a love and affection. Teaching is a sharing and a communion. Deanna mentioned a teacher saying, I'm at a higher level than you. If the teacher starts saying this is not good. This is not a good sign. They start saying, again, you see, in worldly things, this makes sense. If the teacher says, look, if the violin teacher says to you, I'm a better violin player than you, I'm grade 8 violin, you're grade 2, that's appropriate. You might think, oh, he's being a bit of an idiot. He doesn't have to rub it in, doesn't have to sort of prattle on about it, but it's valid on a materialistic plane, right? But even then, the violin teacher doesn't every lesson go to you, oh, by the way, did I tell you, I'm grade 8. I'm a bit of a thing, really. I'm a bit of a big deal. You start getting a bit annoyed about this violin teacher. But even then, at least it's relevant. If a teacher starts saying, I was in the Himalayas for this and that, and they've got their 20-meter long spiritual CV. I did this and I did that, and I was in this lineage, and I went to that teacher, and I played and stayed in this place. And now the level of consciousness I'm at is just like cosmic. It's beyond cosmic. It's super cosmic, right? And I'm at this super cosmic level now. And the reality, and they'll say, I don't like to say it, but the reality is only 0.1% of the population are at this level I'm at. And I don't like to say it, but it's just a fact. It's just a reality. This is not how spirituality works. Spirituality is a great leveler. It's a great leveler. We are all one. There is only one. You are that. There is no, Tom has not reached any high level of consciousness because liberation is not for Tom. Again, it comes back to this idea that the teacher is the body mind. So if you think the teacher is the body mind, then the teacher can, and the teacher is, also thinks the teacher is the body mind, the teacher can say, oh yes, my level of consciousness is cosmic or super cosmic. Now, what often happens in these situations is that a year later, the teacher will say, last year or 2 years ago, I was at super cosmic. Now I've actually gone beyond super cosmic. I've gone to ultra mega cosmic now. And you'll see this in the false teachings. You'll see how they create a bar of enlightenment. And then a couple of years later, they'll say, you know what, that isn't even enlightenment. And they'll have to raise it a bit further again. And so maybe some of their followers have now got to super cosmic. And then the teacher will say, no, there's actually more you need to do now. It's still further to go. So the roadmap changes. This is not these are warning bells, right? Warning bells, alarm bells, warning signs, red flags. What else? Connection with the teacher. As I said, if there's a heartfelt connection with the teacher, be very careful. And you have to all be careful of this if you're on a bhakti type path. Be very careful you can have a heartfelt connection with a teacher, with another body mind, but realize that which you feel love towards is the other body mind, yes, but that is yourself. If you realize that, you're not going to get too hung up on this person's body mind. You see? If it's about the body mind, then when you see the person, when you see the teacher, oh, you want to touch them, you want to be near them, you want to touch their feet, But when you realize that the teacher is an embodiment of yourself, a projection of yourself, in fact, then yes, there may be love for another, just as you may love your child or your friend. But it doesn't become obsessive. It doesn't become unhealthy. It doesn't become dependence. And again, that goes to the other point. A true teacher doesn't foster dependence, fosters independence. What you are, your nature is independent. It's self-shining. It's independently happy. It doesn't depend on anything else for its happiness. Certainly not a person. And the last point I made, which I've already made, which was the guru does not see others as separate from him or herself. There's no separation. There's no levels.